prioritize the Gorgon heads. And those guys can leap like 1,000 feet.
Idiots.
Is there a lore behind the symbol of chaos? The 8-pointed star? I mean, vague, like, it has important symbolism. It mostly revolves around the idea of, like, the fact that chaos is essentially the... I can't remember if Games Workshop came up with the 8-pointed star, or if they stole it from somebody else. It basically revolves around the idea of Chaos Undivided being, like, the convergence of the 8 winds. The 8 winds of magic, and how, like, everything revolves and spirals into that core idea that, like, chaos is the heart of that aspect of creation. I think. I'd have to double check some stuff. Gift.
You read my mind, hon. I go through this stuff awful fast sometimes.
And I, in turn, shall go through your incredible cooking awful fast, given the opportunity.
I wish they would hire Eurydice to, like, come work in the House of Hades.
You're closer to the gods than mortals, right?
Okay, so she is officially a nymph in this.
Gods that can die. How is that fair? It was just a stupid snake bite in my case.
They kept the snake bite.
Imagine something more embarrassing. Business, and then snap,
Aww.
you're dead and on your way down here.
Poor Eurydice.
I know the feeling better than you might expect.
Well, I was going to end up here sooner or later. Might as well while I'm still looking good. Though, I guess you do kind of get to lock in whatever age when you register. Bet everybody dying of old age pushed that one through.
Okay, that's super cool. Like, we actually got to learn a little bit of lore about how the way everything works.
Freshly made.
Thanks, hon.
Why, thank you.
You're just the best, hon. I love her.
You can do it.
I could see Nagash trying to team up with Morathi. I don't think so. Nagash is so self-centered, and he's so... Is today when Palooka does his thing? Yeah, Palooka should have had a painting stream earlier today. I don't know why, but Wednesdays, for whatever reason, I magically end up feeling really bad a lot of the time. Or, like, I stay up too late on Tuesdays. So, like, by the time Wednesday comes around... Like, there were 2 things I really wanted to do today, but I didn't get out of bed until, like... I don't know, 6 p.m., 5 p.m. From a combination of it being, like, so cold and I just wasn't feeling well. I don't know what it is about Wednesdays, dude. I just don't like them. And you definitely have to be careful with Demeter's Call. Because it does not have a lot of range.
Chaos has expired. Stronger still.
Yeah, I think Nagash is way too crazy. And, like, Nagash, the whole point of the Malign Portents and, of the Malign Portent cycle and 2nd edition was literally that Nagash has built up enough power now that he is essentially his own pantheon. Like, Malekith is so big and bad now that he has enough strength that he can afford to get away with being such, like, an egotistical, insane thing. So I don't think he's ever going to team up with any other gods. That being said, I could see some other gods, maybe, or not gods, but like some of the death demigods, the Mortarchs, trying to team up with other gods in hopes of, like, trying to get away from Nagash, or maybe just for their, like, they're just their own ends as it is. I would not at all be surprised to see Neferata I could see Neferata and Morathi teaming up in a heartbeat. Those two have a lot in common, and I always found that it was kind of a waste of the old lore, like Warhammer Fantasy, that we never got to see them interact. Because I would love to see Neferata and Morathi in the same room.
You met Athena earlier, I guess. I'd never trade my bow for all that pomp and armor, but I guess to each her own.
She's gonna hear you. Oh no, she's not. Okay. I was like, oh shit, she's gonna hear that. Okay, we can shoot arrows now.
My hand.
Ooh, headache. But yeah, like I would love to see the death Mortarchs reach out to other gods and maybe like establish pseudo alliances. I think Neferata and Morathi would be like the most terrifying girl power, also political maneuvering band ever. They would be super scary. Who do I think Gotrek would ever fight? Honestly, I don't know. I think we'll eventually get to see Gotrek fight somebody big and important. I would not be surprised to see Gotrek maybe fight one of the Mortarchs. Maybe Nagash at some point. But if Gotrek ever fights a god, it's not going to be in a Gotrek book. It's going to be in a campaign book. But Gotrek has to finish his like ascension before I think he'll be fighting any of the gods. He needs to, I think once he gets the Axe of Grimnir, he will easily be on par with them. Because I'll tell you what, on tabletop, Gotrek can beat the absolute shit out of any of the gods. But from a lore standpoint, I don't think he's quite ready yet. Because like it's heavily implied in Ghouls. Like he doesn't like Alariel manages to handle him pretty well in Blood of the Old World, and in Ghoul Slayer it's heavily implied that if Gotrek like marched into Nagashazar, he would die. Or like Nagash would be able to beat him. But that being said, I do think that Gotrek is going to become the God of Fire, but I think it's going to be a fairly major event when it happens. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to like just happen in one of his little books. That's going to be like a whole thing. Is my prediction still that his old axe will be destroyed when he finds it? Maybe. I think for Gotrek, one of two things is either going to happen. Either Gotrek is going to find his... I think there's only going to be one Axe of Grimnir, period, end of story. I think they're just going to run with it being the one that Gotrek wielded and not worry about the other one. But I think if Gotrek finds his old axe, one of two things is going to happen. Either A, Gotrek is going to have to get a new model where he's dual wielding, which doesn't really make sense. Or B, he's going to essentially find the shards of his old axe. Like, either it's going to become like an event where he has to track down all the shards, Inuyasha style, or it's going to be a system where he finds all of it at once. But I think what he's going to do is I think he's going to like take his old axe and burn it in the brazier of his new axe, and it's going to get all beefed up, and then he'll be the God of Fire. And hopefully at that point he'll be a fire, he'll like step into his role as the God of Fire and become the God of the Fire Slayers, and not as much of like, because right now he still really struggles with that. Gotrek really struggles with the idea of being a god, even though like multiple times, like in Ghoul Slayer and the end of Blood of the Old World, Gotrek's like, he is a god. Like, there's no getting around it. Like, Gotrek is the God of Fire. He doesn't want to be, and he refuses to be, but he is. Like, he is a god. He just doesn't want to admit it yet. Like, he already has cults. People are worshiping him. He doesn't want to be a god because to him, the gods are like, the idea of a god is idiotic because all of the gods are just liars. who just pretend that there's something more than they actually are. And he's not wrong. Like, all of the gods are not, they are gods in the sense that there is nothing really above them, but they're not really gods in the sense that they're like immortal, untouchable beings that created the universe. Like, all of them literally found the universe and imposed their will on it. You know, not a single one of the gods was able to, like, created the mortal realms. They all just kind of woke up and they were there, or they were found by Sigmar, who floated by space until he hitched a ride. But, like, none of them are, like, inherently creators and, like, divine beings over the realms. They're more like pieces of it that managed to gain... They are entities that died that were so intrinsically bound up with those winds of magic that when those winds of magic, like, spat out a planet, essentially, they, like, popped into being. But that's kind of Gotrek's point. Is like, Gotrek's point is that the mortal realms don't need gods. Like, the mortal realms didn't, like, they didn't come into existence with gods. The gods showed up really, really late. And the mortal realms were, like, happily existing and doing their own thing before any of them showed up. Which is why, to Gotrek, they're all a sham. Like, they're all total bullshit. Grugni is good at being I don't think any of the gods are good. I think all the gods have fucked up colossally. I think every single Age of Sigmar god is utter garbage at being a god. Like, they've all made such hysterically over-the-top mistakes that, like, they're better than the Dark Gods by just the virtue of how bad the Dark Gods are. But, like, I bought... Games Workshop put out this bookmark pretty recently that I'm using to keep track of my Queek notes for whenever I finish this stupid thing. And they sold this really, really nice, sexy bookmark that is really cool. It's got, like, Grimnir... It's like the Gotrek Grimnir symbol. It's the symbol that basically Gotrek's cult uses. And it literally says... It says, "The Rome Gate Wars are done, so I hear. And half your so-called gods are ready to put their feet up, but they have neglected one thing, to remember one thing, this Slayer." Like, the whole point of Gotrek is that he's just super pissed at all the gods, but that's because he knows them. Like, it really seems like the God of Fire's whole big thing is basically going to be trying to... I'm not sure where he's going to go to it, to what extent, but the way they've been writing his lore, he basically is a character who's becoming more and more obsessed with reminding the gods to, like, stay in their lane. And that, like, they owe a lot of responsibility to this world that they're trying to shirk. Do I think Alariel was too snobby towards Gotrek? I mean, yeah, but all the gods are really snobby. I mean, Gotrek doesn't like any of the gods, and none of the gods are gonna like him. Like, Gotrek is literally, like, the worst thing the gods could run into for the way they want things to go. You know, all of them want to be these divine beings that are, like, creating and, changing the world to suit their image. But, like, Gotrek is the guy that's walking in and, like, seeing all the shit they're doing, and he's, like, yelling at them from the back of the room that, like, "Hey, you're a complete sham and you suck." Like, for all your bullshit about how you're, like, I remember when you weren't divine. I remember when you were just a person. Like, with the exception of Grugni. Like, Grugni is the only god in Age of Sigmar who has always been a god for as long as we know. But, you know, Gotrek just looks at him and he says, "Okay, you claim to be a god, but you, like, did a super shitty job. Like, you abandoned your children not once, 3 times you've dropped the ball, Grugni. You dropped the ball when the ancestor gods left the world in the first place, you dropped the ball during the end times, and you dropped the ball during the Age of Chaos in the mortal realms. Like, you are the worst dad ever." And honestly, I think Grugni would absolutely agree with him. Grugni deals with a lot of self-doubt. But Anyway, so yeah, I'm super, God, I want, Gotrek talking to Grugni is probably the most anticipated event for me, involving Gotrek. I think Gotrek talking to Grugni is going to be a game changer for both of them. Like, I think that for Grugni, it has a good chance of, like, finally giving him the push he needs to, like, actively return to his children. And I think for Gotrek, it might be the push he actually needs to realize that the world needs a God of Fire. Like, the world needs him, even if he doesn't want to be an active figure for that. But, like, whether he likes it or not, like, his personality won't let him just watch people suffer. Gotrek can't help himself. If he sees people, like, in a bad situation where through no fault of their own, they're being, like, oppressively attacked by monsters and, like, dominated and forced to suffer, he's gonna step in and he's gonna fight, though he expects his followers to, like, you know, pull their own weight, you know? Which I love about Gotrek. Like, that's the whole point of Ghoul Slayer. The whole point of Ghoul Slayer is that Gotrek met a civilization of humans that he admired, because they venerated their ancestors, they were really, like, they were basically dwarves. But it had like a really interesting impact on Gotrek that he went so far out of his way to save them. You know, this whole thing of Gotrek could have easily left those people to die. And I think old Gotrek from Fantasy would have. I think Fantasy Gotrek would have allowed the people of the ghouls, of the, oh god, what were they called? But I think he would have allowed that nation of people to die. But new Gotrek? Nah, he's not about that. Like, he gave up the chance to fight Nagash, which is the only thing he wanted, in order to save them. Which is awesome. And I love this new Gotrek.
Enough. Nice.
Okay. Anything else in here? I really should have taken the deal lightning whenever you take damage, because I am super fond of taking damage.
You wouldn't dare.
Dare what? You gotta be more specific, Dad.
Should I take the trade?
New Gotrek is just old Gotrek that actually remembers to. I wouldn't say that. I think that's too simplified down. There's a lot that I think Gotrek has finally acknowledged that Felix is right about, but like the conversation that Gotrek and Felix have, basically which weirdly they had Gotrek talk to Felix in Blood of the Old World and Ghoul Slayer. But in Ghoul Slayer, like, the thing Felix basically tells Gotrek is, like, when they both realize, or when Felix finally realizes what's going on, and, like, what's left of everything, Felix basically tells just reaffirms what Gotrek thinks, which is that he tells Gotrek, like, make them, like, the gods, like, the good gods, like Sigmar and all of them, Felix basically tells him, make them pay. Like, make them understand that they fucked up and they failed us, and they don't get to just walk away from that.
Nice and cool up here. You know, if I was permanently dead, maybe I wouldn't mind all this.
Which, honestly, I'm not sure where they're going to go with Gotrek's story as far as the God Revenge story is concerned. Because I could kind of see Gotrek being a Order God that's more... like, that felt very not Felix to you. That felt very Felix to me. I think that's exactly what Felix would say in that situation. Like, Felix literally, like, he knows that his wife and daughter died horribly, and Felix never got to see them again because his soul has been carted off by somebody. So, like, I think Felix would absolutely tell Gotrek. Like, Felix is super revenge motivated. Like, that's the whole point of the second half of the Gotrek and Felix storyline, is that he found out about Thanquol killing his dad, and Felix is, like, really obsessed with tracking down Thanquol once he finally realizes who's responsible for it. Like, Felix is not some, like, super noble good guy. He has noble moments, but he's still, like, him and Gotrek are really good partners for a lot of reasons. But Felix isn't some hoity-toity, like, hero of goodness. Like, he would absolutely have told Gotrek to, like, make sure that the gods of the old world don't get to just walk away from the fact that they screwed up. You know, make sure the Chaos Gods pay for everything they did, too. No, Ghoul Slayer is in every format except audio, to my knowledge. I don't believe there's an audio version.
So then, Athena's looking out for you. That's good, that's good. She likes to put a lot of thought and stuff in everything. It's all a little much, if you ask me.
I don't like any of these, to be honest. I don't have a cast yet. Oh, wait, no, I do. I have fire arrows. Well. Oh, there is an audiobook for Ghoul Slayer? Oh, that's good. I didn't know that. Well, let me check my phone. I'm getting a lot of art submissions, so I'm just wanting to make sure that I respond to everyone who sends me a piece that I got it and it works. Give me a second, guys. I just want to make sure that these people are getting everything in. Let's see. Let's see if I can open this piece. Oh, there we go. That's a cool piece. Alright. Alright, Foul, have a good night, my dude. Take care of yourself, man. I gotta say, I was legit worried for probably a good 2 or 3 weeks that, like, nobody was gonna participate in this art contest, because I just, like, I had heard nothing. Like, there had been, like, a lot of retweeting, but, like, very few people had, like, joined the Discord to, like, ask questions, and, like, I hadn't heard anything for, like, the longest time, and I was like, did I just, like, not give them enough time, or, like, what's going on here? And I was, like, getting really, really stressed about it. But thankfully, I have gotten a lot of entries, which I'm super pleased about. Now that I'm thinking about it, I've actually, you know, like, generally I haven't tended to focus money in my runs, but I kind of should. That way I can, like, because you can always buy a gem in the final dungeon, which I really feel like I need to focus more on. Where'd he go? There he is. Oh, Val has a good night. Poor guy. A lot of people are struggling this day and age.
Whatever, let's try it.
So what's the overall of Age of Sigmar going forward? Oh, Apoploxian. So what's happening that I'm so excited about is that basically, so the Order gods have not been like crazy active in recent times. They've been active, but they've been more of like being under assault. But basically what's now happening is we're finally getting a storyline about them being active. And it's tying into a couple of events that we're all really, really excited about. So the big highlights, to like really simplify it, are that Slaanesh is about to break out of his prison. So Slaanesh is breaking out and about to return to the Pantheon of the Dark Gods, which not only means that Slaanesh is going to be restoring balance, because right now, the Pantheon of the Dark Gods, Khorne is leagues more powerful than his brothers because of all the constant fighting going on, but also because his rival is missing. Slaanesh isn't there to balance out Khorne, so Khorne has been an ascendant for quite a while now. So Slaanesh is going to be taking it to Khorne and probably attacking the other gods for abandoning him, because like Khorne is Slaanesh's rival and needs to be reined in. Tzeentch is the reason Slaanesh got caught in the first place, because Tzeentch basically helped the elves figure out where he was and lure him into a trap. And then Nurgle just hasn't done anything. I don't think Nurgle and Slaanesh are going to have a lot of beef, but Tzeentch and Khorne have a ton of beef. And then, of course, the Great Horned Rat. The Great Horned Rat literally took Slaanesh's spot. So you know Slaanesh and the Great Horned Rat are about to have a huge fight. So, like, hopefully the Skaven are actually going to be super important in the narrative, because the Skaven have been kind of not really super important, to be honest.
Always a player, Charon.
Your Charon there must drive quite a hard bargain, Zagreus, if he would keep you from your victory just for a bit of coin.
But Morathi has not been a god up till this point. Morathi's just kind of been, Morathi has been more, Morathi's, like, been as close to godhood as you could be without being a god. She's kind of like Gotrek. She's been really, really powerful, and she's been allowed to, like, hang out with the other gods due to her, like, scheming and ambition being useful. But, the big thing about her is that she's now finally making her play to actually attain godhood. So instead of relying on the Heart of Cain to, like, build up worship and stuff, she's going to be coming out into the open and being like, yeah, no, I am a god. Bow before me. And we're going to get to see, like, all the crazy shit that's going to happen because of that. Most of which seems to revolve around the fact that by doing that, she's probably going to inadvertently release Slaanesh, which is kind of funny because of all the elf gods, she probably hates Slaanesh the most, because she's the only one of them that actually got eaten by Slaanesh. So, you know, probably not the fondest memory. But nonetheless, Morathi is probably going to cause him to break free, because that's going to be how she achieves her ambitions, is by dragging so many elven souls out of Slaanesh's body that it causes his prison to get unbalanced and disrupted. So I'm just super excited for that. It's going to be a ton of fun, I think. So for Chaos and Order, this is going to be huge.
Dennet has already got a frigid hold on you. Certainly not the warmest member of the clan, now is she? But do be patient with her. She's been through a lot.
It's like the nicest thing Zeus has said. Oh, yeah. Clouded Judgment. Thank you, Zeus. Could go see Chaos, but I feel like we're so close to the boss. Seeing Chaos would be, like, kind of idiotic at this point. I do have a lot of Death Defiance, though. And I do have a decent build. What do y'all think? Should we go see Chaos, or should we press onwards? Greed or no greed? Chaos or Coward?